Greetings and welcome to the 2014 Fantasy Baseball season. I am Luke, also known as Mr. Cheat Sheet, and I am going to be walking you through my world-famous cheat sheets here. What we're going to be looking at is the 2014 Rotisserie cheat sheet. So this is what happens when you pull it up from my website. You'll get most likely a warning up here saying it originated from an internet location. That's okay. You can trust me. So go ahead and click on Enable Editing, and then you will be allowed to use the sheet. But there'll be one other thing that you have to do. It also says some content's been disabled. You have to enable content. This is because there's a lot of macros running behind the scenes. But if you go ahead and click Enable Content, then we get cooking. Alright, so here's what you're looking at when you load up the cheat sheets. You get a whole bunch of options here. The idea is that we can customize these cheat sheets exactly to your league's specifications, and then also to your own specifications as far as the data that you'll see. But first and foremost, we need to set it up so it looks like the league that you're in. So for your rotisserie league, if it's a 5x5 league, these will be the categories that you'll use. But there's some leagues that are 6x6 and might want to use on-base percentage or quality starts instead of wins. All sorts of different options here that you can set up depending on your league type. Just for the sake of simplicity here, we're going to do a 5x5 league. And then you can set up the number of starters in your league. So if your league that uses left fielders and center fielders instead of outfielders, you can set that up. And if you're a league that uses middle infielders and corner infielders, you can set that up there. 2 catcher leagues, you can set that. 5 catcher leagues, if those even exist, you can do that. So basically you set this up however you'd like. The picture here is if you're in a league that maybe does 2 starters, 2 relievers, and then 4 pitchers that could be anything, you could set it up to do that. So once you have those set, you'll set the number of teams in your league. And if it's a 16-team league, then you'll get an option to enter in 16 team names down here. 12-team league, you can do that. If you're in odd number leagues, you can set that too. And then at that point, you'll be able to write in the team names. And this is helpful for when you're tracking the draft as you go along. But that's optional. You don't have to do that. So at that point, your league is set up. It's customized to however your league will be the rules of your league. So at that point, then, it's up to you and what you want to see as far as data. This is supposed to be a cheat sheet that is customized to your liking. So first thing you're going to do is choose what sort of ADP data you want. That's average draft position. So this will largely depend upon what site you're using for your fantasy baseball league. So if you're using CBS Sportsline, you'll want to choose CBS because their ADP data will most likely or most closely resemble what you're going to see in your league draft. I'm going to just set to Mock Draft Central, and as the season goes on, you'll see a lot more options here. This is an early version of the spreadsheet. And then whatever expert rankings you want in there, I'm just choosing Fantasy Pros. And then the projections. So if you're not familiar with the different projection systems, you can get a description of them here. Otherwise, you can choose whatever projection system you'd like. And as the season goes, there'll be more options. You can also do a custom projection, and how that would work is you click on this, and you can set whatever percentage you want for each projection system. So if you want to give 75% weight to steamer, and give 25% to the fans, you can do that. And to harp on that again, there will be more options here as the season goes on. And you can have different projections for pitchers versus hitters. So maybe you really trust steamer for pitchers, but not hitters. So you can put different weights on them there. Just make sure it always adds up to 100, and then you should be good to go. Oh, they're telling me it doesn't add up to 100. See, I didn't even listen to myself. So there you go. Also, if you're in an AL or NL only league, you can set that here. And if you're in some weird, funky custom league that maybe includes some NL teams, but not all NL teams, you can do that too. So now we have it set up however we'd like. I'm going to do the custom projections, Fantasy Pro rankings, and mock draft ADP data. And I got these team names that I didn't customize. Boom, click that. cheat sheet get generated. It still wants to know if this document's trusted. It is. So there you go. You have now your own little fantasy war room. You can click along here and it'll highlight whichever player you're looking at. Pitchers are highlighted in gray. The reason being their worth roto value is included in here, and to differentiate it so you know pitcher, you're looking at the wins here as opposed to the average worth value. You're not looking at home runs for Clayton Kershaw, you're looking at saves there, strikeouts and runs. So, to differentiate them, the pitchers are in gray. So this is what it looks like when the league has not been touched at all yet. I'm going to switch over to a version where I put in a little bit of data so you can see how you'll use it during a draft. Okay. So here's one. You can see up here that we're 30 picks into the draft. We have a bunch of picks that have already been entered in. I have team names that have already been entered in here. And in this case, as you go through the draft, when you have your teams named, you can select whoever drafts a certain player. So if Will 2K drafted Freddie Freeman, you can put that, and then now we can see in the standings over here, they'll go up or down depending on which players drafted to each team. And you can also see standings. So here we go. Freddie Freeman was drafted to Will 2K. In this case, he's projected to be a bench player for that team because they already have Paul Goldschmidt there and Eric Hosmer as their corner infielder, so they didn't really need Freddie Freeman. In fact, they had Joey Votto as DH, so all their spots to put Freddie Freeman in the lineup are already filled up. So since he's he has the lowest projection of all those, he'll be put on the bench. So standings will go up and down based on those team starters. And as you go through the draft, these will change. So, for example, let's see. Wild Wild West is in first place there, and they've got projected roto value of 5 in steals, which ranks the lowest. Down here you can see the rankings as opposed to just the values up here. So they're ranked the lowest, but hey, maybe the Wild Wild West recognizes that when it's their next pick, so they go for somebody speedy. They go for Carlos Gomez, who's projected for 33 steals here. So Wild Wild West does that, and boom, they just went up in the standings in steals. And you can see that up here too. So that is how you'll be doing it throughout the draft as far as tracking draft picks and who's on what team. For your own purposes, when your pick comes up, you're going to want to be able to do some research. So maybe it's your pick now, and you have pick 33, and you're looking and say, okay, maybe I want Mark Trumbo, maybe I want Alex Rios, oh, Dustin Pedroia. You got all these choices here. One thing you can do first off is you can hide the drafted players. And so now you're just looking at who is available. So it makes it a little cleaner for you as you're going through as opposed to looking at everybody. And if you're ever curious of who's on what team, you can show the drafted players again. But in this case, we'll hide them. And with those hidden, now you're looking through and you're comparing players. So you're not sure if you want Trumbo or Rios, so maybe you'll go over here and you'll look at their player profiles. Even though that other sheet tells you quite a bit of data, this will break down even further, so you can look at all the projections for a certain player. And let's see, Mark Trumbo and Alex Rios. And this will only show available players. So, even though we're using Steamer projections in this particular sheet, on the Draft Central page, you can see other projections for Trumbo. So, okay, he's going to have 33 homers at Fangraphs, and if you had custom projections, you can see those here too. And you get to see the different ADP data. Even though we're using Mock Draft Central, it'll vary from site to site. So you can look over here and see, okay, these are, there's kind of a wide range for Trumbo and also for Rios down here. But if you're in a Yahoo league, Rios would probably already be gone, but not Trumbo. So you can also look at the rankings for various people too and start to get a sense on who you might want to pick. But also, the cool thing here is it'll help you a little bit because your team will be affected differently by, in this case, Trumbo, who's a home run hitter, versus Rios, who is a bit of a mix. He'll steal some bases and hit some home runs for you. So what does your team need? And in this case, we'll say we're Men in Black. So for the Men in Black, if Trumbo is drafted to that team, here's his projected worth values, and here's how that would affect their place in the standings by drafting him as it currently stands. So all in all, actually drafting Trumbo will give you a -1 overall spot in the standings, because it's going to hurt pretty bad in stolen bases, and especially in average, give you a boost in home runs and RBIs. But with Rios in this case, you're going to go up 3 spots in the standings. He's going to help a lot in stolen bases, +6 as opposed to -2, so that's an 8-spot swing between these two players. He's going to hurt you in runs a little bit, but he's going to help you in average in the sense that he's going to leave you in the same spot as opposed to putting you in a minus position like Trumbo. So you can start to make your decisions based on that. And if we look over here, you can see how the standings are currently, and you can start to see how your position might be affected by drafting a certain player. So make your decision. In this case, he went with Rios, and then Rios is gone from the sheet. It's the next person's pick. The other thing I want to point out, you can sort it by a variety of ways. So maybe you're looking for a catcher. So you can sort it by position and look at just the catchers and just the first baseman. And you can sort it by the worth rank. And you can read by sight to understand what worth is a bit more. But basically it's how they're going to, what their value is in a Roto league. So in Cliff Lee's case, he gives you about 6 positive position in the standing versus other players who might give you a negative direction in the standings by drafting them. So generally the early round guys will give you a positive impact in the standings, and later round guys will hurt you, and you want to minimize that risk. But you can compare players in Roto leagues because it's somewhat difficult sometimes when you don't know if a 19 homer, 19 stolen base guy is as valuable as a 26 homer, 1 stolen base guy. 2 very different players, but you can see in this case they give you about the same Roto value overall with their pluses and minuses. So that is the basic gist of the cheat sheets. One other little thing to point out as you're going through the drafts, and I'm going to sort it by ADP so you can see this a bit better. You can see at the 34th pick in this case, there's a 70% chance that Mark Trumbo would be here, so it's not a big shock that he's available to you. But sometimes there's guys who have a wide range, where some mock drafts, they're going at 150 overall, others are going at 30 overall. So depending on their range there's different likelihood that they'll actually be available next round. So Pedroia, for instance, there's a 90% chance he would have been available in this round, but he's been drafted mostly early. There's not many people taking him very late, so there's only an 8% chance that he's going to be available 1 round from now for you. While Trumbo, there's actually going to be a better shot because people are all over the map with him. So you can start to get a sense on whether it's worth reaching for a guy in this round, or maybe waiting around and hoping he'll be there. With Holiday, maybe you really want to take him. You really hope he'll be on your team, and you're thinking about taking him with the 34th pick, but you're looking here and you're saying, wow, there's a 100% chance that he'll be available next round. Of course, you can't predict human behavior. There might be somebody else who jumps on it, but odds are that he should be there next round, so you can pass on him and maybe go with somebody who's less likely to be available next round, like a Pedroia. So that is how you use the cheat sheets, and I highly recommend to check out the people who contribute to this site, such as Mock Draft Central, CBS, Sportsline, the different rankings we have here, and of course the projections. Click on those links, read about them, educate yourself, and have a very happy fantasy draft season. See you in the championship, folks.